Yo, what's going on? Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Coming up on this show, the changes that the Philadelphia Eagles need to make on the offensive side of the football going into Week 3 to get this offense on track. And you start off with this, right? Let's take a gander at how the Eagles stack up on both sides of the ball. Philadelphia 2-0, undefeated to start the year. On defense, they've been a lot further along than on the offensive side of the football. That might surprise some people because Philadelphia has so many new faces and young players playing on defense, whereas this offense that won the Super Bowl last year does return 10 of 11 starters from the 2024 team. But as we know, Kevin Patullo, new offensive coordinator, he's never called plays before in his NFL coaching career. He's replacing Kellen Moore, who, as the season progressed last year, made adjustments and did a really good job of catering the offense to the respective skill sets of the players and the personnel on the offensive side of the ball. And the Eagles were able to, in turn, find their identity, which was running the ball. And that was a little bit surprising for Kellen Moore because going into last year when he was an OC for either the Chargers or the Cowboys, his offenses were very pass happy. And so on offense to start the year, Philadelphia ranks 16th in points per game at 22, 29th in yards per game at 259, 30th in yards per play, 4.3. Of course, they're lacking the explosive plays. They are number 3 on third downs, 48.1%. Jalen Hurts on third downs and against the blitz. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. And what you also love to see, third down success in the red zone. Anytime the Eagles have gotten inside the 20, they've scored a touchdown on every red zone trip. On defense, Philadelphia has only given up 7 points after recess the first 2 games of the year against Dallas and Kansas City. Philadelphia 12th in points per game, led by Vic Fangio's unit. 9th in yards per game, 18th in yards per play. Have to get better on third downs. Can't get off the field there. 25th among the 32 teams. And then red zone about middle of the pack at 17th, a 60% red zone touchdown scoring percentage for the opposition. And as we know, the issues on offense for Philadelphia so far, I have 4 of them that have really bothered me that we can pinpoint here. A lack of explosive plays. Those are plays of 10-plus yards. The pass game has been lacking. The offense in general has been vanilla. And then the scheme, the alignments, the play calls, they've been predictable. And it's everything from the run game not being too exotic and being predictable. It's everything from the route trees for the wide receivers on this Eagles team being easy to defend. I would just like Philadelphia, Kevin Patullo, Nick Sirianni, to get a little bit more exotic and a little bit more creative. But look, this kind of has been a Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts thing. They've been the constants here since 2021 when these issues have kind of persisted or at least happened at times. The offensive coordinators have been new, but for the most part, the offenses have looked pretty much the same. So I don't think it's going to change drastically, but I do think there are some changes that the Eagles need to make on offense, and we'll get into those here on the show. I do want everybody to please remember what happened last year with the Eagles and the fact that they won the Super Bowl last year, dominated Kansas City, and the fact that over their last 19 games, they are 18-1. Winningest team in football has led to people forgetting that early last season, this offense struggled. It was a pretty mid-unit, and they really didn't find their groove until about Week 7, Week 8. Now, in Week 1, yes, they put up 34 points against the Green Bay Packers. That was a quality win in Brazil, but the Eagles turned it over 3 times in that game. In Week 2, the Eagles only mustered 21 points, and they choked, lost late, and collapsed against the Atlanta Falcons. 22-21, the final score there. In Week 3, the Eagles only scored 15 points against the Saints in that low-scoring affair, and they really had to pull that game out late. Week 4, listless loss on both sides of the pill. 33-16, they got dominated by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that loss especially hurt at the time because the season prior in the wild card round, Philly got shellacked by Tampa Bay. Eagles had their bye week in week 5. It came at a good time because the pressure was mounting on Nick Sirianni and this ball club, and so they were able to get a little bit of a breather. But in week 16, they come out of it. They only scored 20 points against the Browns. That game came down to the wire. Remember, Jalen Hurts threw that long ball on 4th down to A.J. Brown late to ice it. Then in week 7 and in week 8, Eagles beat the Giants on the road 28-3. Then they beat the Bengals 37-17. That's when the offense really started to establish and find an identity. And for the rest of the year, the offense was very good for the most part. Also, this time last year, Jalen Hurts had thrown 3 interceptions and lost a fumble. He had an expected completion percentage of 60.7%. He ranked 30th in the NFL with expected completion percentage due to a lot of low percentage throws. What you'll take to start the year this year is that the turnovers are down. Yes, he hasn't thrown a touchdown, but he's run for multiple. You have more high percentage throws. He's been good against the blitz. He's fared very well on 3rd down. And all of those categories and statistics and trends go a long way in determining wins and losses. But we all know that with Kevin Patullo calling the plays, the Brian Johnson PTSD that we have from 2023, both internal promotions, replacing offensive coordinators who did great things the year before them, that with this much talent, the Eagles have to be better on offense. And Nick Sirianni talked about this earlier this week during his press conference and on 94 WIP. It's very well documented that the Eagles need to generate and manufacture more explosive plays, especially through the air, right? The Eagles have 3 pass plays of 10-plus yards. Jalen Hurts against Kansas City only completed 1 of 4 passes that traveled 10-plus yards. That was the deep shot to DeVonta Smith, all-out blitz on a 3rd and 10 to set up a huge score in that game. In 2022, for context, the Eagles led the NFL with 169 explosive plays with an average of 9.9 of them per game. Now, the schedule that year was a lot easier than it's been the last 2 years, but even last year, the Eagles did manufacture a lot of explosive plays, but they were mostly on the ground, not through the air, because Saquon Barkley is such a home run threat. But these struggles also are nothing new to this Eagles team. In weeks 1 and 2 here in 2025, Hurts is 34 of 45, 75.6% completion rate for 253 yards, 5.62 yards per attempt. Remember last year when A.J. Brown was asked in the locker room what the biggest issue with the Eagles offense is, and he said passing? That was after weeks 13 and 14, where Hurts was 25 of 40, completion percentage of 62.5%, so down 13 points for 226 yards, also down, and the yards per attempt about the same. The Eagles made the adjustments then to unlock the offense. I think the Eagles can make the adjustments now to unlock the offense. And so that brings me to the purpose of today's show. So, Chase, what can the Eagles do to get this offense moving, going up against a Rams defense that is one of the best defenses in the National Football League? I think it starts here for Philadelphia. The Eagles have to get A.J. Brown going. We're talking about one of the top wide receivers in football, a generational player, and good things happen when the Eagles throw A.J. the rock. And so far, up until this point, his routes have been predictable. They have been easy to defend. And Jalen Hurts hasn't really given him opportunities to make a lot of plays, and he hasn't pulled the trigger on other throws or routes when A.J. potentially has been open. There's just no reason why a player of this caliber should have 6 catches for 35 yards through 2 games. And A.J. Brown's impact since the trade in 2022 has been profound. He's been an all-pro every year that he's been an Eagle. The Eagles' points per game when A.J. Brown has played and been on the field healthy since acquiring him in 2022, 27.7 points per game. The Eagles are also, this was going into 2025, 38-10 with A.J. So now they are 40-10 with A.J. Brown. Without A.J. Brown, the points per game goes down from 27.7 to 16.2, and the record a losing one, 2-3, including that playoff loss to the Bucs in that blowout. And for everybody trying to stir up controversy and drum up trade buzz for A.J. Brown. The trade talk that I'm seeing from the likes of Colin Cowherd is absurd. It's not realistic. It's also literally impossible. The dead cap hit that the Eagles would inherit if they traded away A.J. Brown would be franchise sinking. It would make no sense financially to trade him away. And for this Eagles offense, I just showed you the win-loss record. They are 40-10 when he plays. Why would you get rid of a player like this? What you have to do is keep him happy and just target him because he's able to get open. And in week 2, he had the best separation among any wideout in the NFL. So you look at what he's done in his Eagles career. I know that over the last calendar year and change, Jalen Hurts among consistent starters has been among the bottom of the barrel as far as passing attempts. And people like to say the Eagles don't target A.J. Brown enough. He has to be unhappy. He was with a run-heavy team with Tennessee. Now he's on a run-heavy team with Philadelphia. Well, how do you explain this production then? There has been no wide receiver in the history of this organization who's been able to put up this production 3 consecutive years, which is why already 4 seasons into him being an Eagle, I think he might be the best wide receiver in franchise history. I mean, in 2022, 88 grabs, nearly 1,500 yards and 11 touchdowns. 2023, 106 catches, and once again, over 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns. Last year, he missed, 3 or 4 games with a hamstring injury? He still went over 1,000 yards and had 7 touchdowns. It's not like he's not getting targeted, and this is why I believe at some point, he's going to kick it into gear, and this Eagles passing offense is going to kick it into gear. But again, it just comes down to getting him involved, finding ways to get creative with getting him the football. And it starts, I think, partially with his average depth of target. And so through 2 games, he's run a lot of short in-breaking routes. And his average depth of target the first 2 games, 7.4 yards. The average depth of target in his previous 6 years, 11.9. We are talking about a 4.5-yard difference there. He's also averaging 0.8 yards after the catch on his 6 catches this year. He's averaged 5.6 yards after the catch in his entire career. And so for the Eagles, this is how Philadelphia can get A.J. Brown going. He has 6 catches through 2 games. It's not sustainable if the Eagles want to be successful on offense in 2025. He is dominant on slants and in-breakers, especially when he's able to put his foot in the dirt, cut it to the outside, and pick up yards after the catch. He's run a lot of those routes. So obviously you want to diversify his route tree, but you want to continue to go with what has worked. Also, how about the Eagles scheme up some long balls, right? With all of the weapons on offense, you should be able to scheme up A.J. Brown with a one-on-one where he can take the top off of the defense and use his size to come down with 50-50 balls because he's so great at that. And with his baseball player background, he tracks it so well. He's also great with body control. So throw him some back shoulder balls. This is on Jalen Hurts to throw it to him maybe when A.J. Brown is not open. That's what Tanner McKee does so well. And if we're talking about A.J. not having opportunities to create after the catch, throw him a bubble screen from time to time. And also be less predictable with pre-snap motion. Get creative there. And that comes down to finding ways to scheme him open so that he can make an impact on the game. So what do you think? Will A.J. Brown go off against the Rams on Sunday? I want you to type yes or no. Simple question, simple answer. This Rams defense is legit. Share your thoughts with me down in the comment section right now. A lot more to get to here. How the Eagles can continue to fix their offense and get it back on track. But first, this episode of Philadelphia Eagles Now, brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, right? But on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks where it's good to be right. It's very simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks is also the best way to get action on sports all across America. Prize Picks puts their users first. All withdrawals fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits right into your account. which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. What we like going up against the Rams, speaking of A.J. Brown, he has to pop off, right? He's also had success against Los Angeles. More than 72.5 receiving yards. Puka Nacua, Rams are going to throw it to him a lot in between the numbers, in between the hashes, more than 84.5 receiving yards. He also has Devontae Adams alongside him. And then the special this week, Patrick Mahomes more than a half passing yard. New users, play $5, get $50 instantly in lineups. This is real money sports action made easy. Download the app, use the code CLNS. That's code CLNS. After you play your first $5 lineup, you get $50 in lineups. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, we move forward here on the show. I alluded to this earlier, but I'm about to give you an example with a chart here. Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo. Can we diversify the route tree for DeVonta Smith? On a lot of other teams across the NFL, he would be a number one wide receiver. He's probably the best number two wide receiver in the game. Every year he's been with the Eagles, he's been able to produce as a number two. And in 2021, when he was a number one, set the franchise record for receiving yards for a rookie. With DeVonta Smith, he can line up inside. He can line up outside. And with his footwork, he is one of the filthiest route runners in the NFL. But this is his route tree against the Kansas City Chiefs. You have some verticals on the left side. You've got the deep shot where he caught that 3rd and 10 all-out blitz. Beautiful ball from Jalen Hurts to give him an opportunity to make a play. And then he's got a couple of simple out routes. And this is a theme that we're going to talk about here in a moment. Can we target the middle area of the field, especially a player like DeVonta Smith, who's so good at picking up yards after the catch? And so A.J. Brown, 6 catches so far this year. Crazy for how dominant and great of a player he is. DeVonta Smith, not much better. 7 catches for 69 yards. Diversify his route tree, scheme him open, and he will make good things happen. And then to that point that I alluded to here, I know that Jalen Hurts is a shorter quarterback. And due to the traffic that sometimes is in front of him, when the pocket gets muddied up or there are some big bodies in front of him, he doesn't always see the middle area of the field all that well. He throws a great long ball, but usually it is toward the boundary, toward the sideline, and he doesn't always target the hashes or in between the numbers. But there are ways that you can manufacture plays across the middle of the field. Crossers, either shallow or deep crossers. You can run some pick routes and some rub routes. You can throw some quick hitters. You can throw some developing plays. Think about the weapons that you have. A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, Dallas Goedert when he comes back. Shoot, Saquon Barkley can run routes and catch balls in between the numbers. And what I want the Eagles to do is press the defense. Make them cover every blade of grass, vertically, all 3 levels, and from sideline to sideline. And if you spread things out and you start targeting all areas of the field, it's going to open up the pass game, of course, make you more difficult to defend. What is it also going to do? Teams aren't going to be able as much to stack the box, and that can open up running lanes for Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. So week 1 against the Cowboys, you look at Jalen Hurts' passing chart, and there was the lone long pass to Jihaad Dotson, 51 yards, a beautiful throw. And that was a throw that did happen right around the hashes. And you do see how Hurts was able to throw over the middle. And there were some routes and some receptions that occurred over the middle area of the field. And because of that, Jalen Hurts had a pretty solid game. The completion percentage over expected was plus 15.3%. And so he was finding a lot of tight windows as well. And the offense just moved a lot better. A lot of people lose sight of the fact that the Eagles had the ball 3 times in the first half. They scored 3 touchdowns on those 3 drives. Then the weather delay hit, and it really ruined the offensive flow for Philadelphia, but also Dallas. They didn't score a point after halftime, after they scored on their first 4 drives of the game. But then against Kansas City, part of this was the Chiefs' game plan, right? Because they loaded the box, and they blitzed Jalen Hurts and pressured him on more than 60% of his dropbacks. But all of the throws here to the outside. And this is when the offense can become very predictable. Also, a lack of long balls here for Jalen Hurts. And so I think Nick Sirianni, Kevin Patullo, and Jalen Hurts can just do a better job of scheming things up better. And then lastly, the Eagles have an opportunity to really get the ground game going against the Los Angeles Rams. You know who's been the Rams' daddy of late? Saquon Barkley. In 2024, Saquon Barkley was the Rams' daddy. He owned them. You look back to Week 12, historic performance for Saquon on Sunday Night Football at SoFi Stadium. The Eagles won that game 37-20. Saquon Barkley, 255 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. He also became the first player since Maurice Jones-Drew in 2009 to have 2 rushing touchdowns of 70-plus yards. He had over 300 all-purpose yards. So by himself, he accounted for more than 300 all-purpose yards among the Eagles' 481 yards of total offense. Then he doubled down and did it again in the divisional round. Eagles won that game 28-22, and Saquon once again over 2 Bills on the ground. He went over Benji Franks twice against the Rams in 2 games. 26 totes, 205 yards, 6.4 yards per carry. Back in Week 12, he was at over 9 yards per carry. And his 2 touchdowns, 78 and 62 yards. So Saquon gave the Eagles a lot of explosive plays against the Rams last year. All 4 of his touchdowns, 60-plus yards. And another thing here is that the Eagles' offense has become predictable with their tendencies and their scheme and player alignment, right? And Eagles coach Nick Sirianni last week said you have no tendencies going into game 1. Well, through 2 games, they have a tendency to run when the Eagles are under center 96% of the time, pistol 91.3% of the time, shotgun 33.8% of the time. All other teams across the NFL, not as predictable. They're running under center 69.5% of the time. That's nearly a 30% difference. Out of the pistol, 62.7%. Again, nearly a 30-point difference. And then out of the shotgun, still a difference there, 26.9%. So that is how the Philadelphia Eagles can fix their offense, cater to their supremely talented players, and get this offense back on track. And that's why you subscribe to the channel. Did you get that analysis anywhere else? I don't think so.